Hey, Suns, I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it now.
Hello, and welcome in to PHNX Suns, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I'm Eric. That's Gerald. That's Espo. That sucked. I'm not really going to mince any words. That was pretty bad. 117-90, the Phoenix Suns lost to the Denver Nuggets. And this music just about sums it up, Gerald.
Pretty much. This team badly needs a come to Jesus moment. I mean, this is the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But I'm not there yet because I am expecting the same result at this point. And that is scary because this is a team that is built to contend, that aspires to contend, that has a lot of money, more money than any other team tied up in its current core. And it's coming out here. And I know that Devin Booker's out, but there is no reason for this team to be this bad when one of their three highest paid players are out. Like, this is just inexcusable. It's on everybody involved, from the roster construction to the players themselves to the coaches. And it's one of those things where we tried a coaching change over the summer. We tried adding depth. We tried changing the complexion around the big three. And right now, what we are seeing is just unacceptable. You cannot get outscored 62-39 in a second half and think that's okay. This is a team that right now, when they get punched in the mouth, they fold. They fold, and it's just, I don't understand it. I don't know how you fix this team. There's no Jimmy Butler trade that's going to fix this team. There's no trade for a better center that's suddenly going to magically reverse this. I don't understand what we're seeing compared to what we saw when this team was healthy at the start of the season. But the bad vibes from when Kevin Durant was out have permeated. They've lingered. And now we're in a place where I genuinely, like, they just need a come to Jesus moment. And you better hope it's on Jesus's birthday in a few days because things are not looking good for this group.
No, one shot, please. Look, since the Suns are going to be in a repeated loop, I'm going to make myself sound like I did the other night. It is time to blow this up. There is no come to Jesus moment anymore. We are beyond that. We've seen a year and a half of the same exact results, and it is time for change. It's time for a trade. It's time to fire somebody and do it this week. This cannot continue the way it is. This team is now out of the play-in. This team is now beyond even considering them being a contender. This team is borderline embarrassing at this point, and it just can't continue this way. You've changed everything, like Gerald said. This is just a complete reboot of last season, like I said the other night. We're not seeing anything different. We're seeing the same exact things. Bad turnovers, bad defense at times, no heart, no leadership. At some point, this doesn't have to do with injuries. It has to do with the makeup of this entire team, mentally and on the court. It's not the coach's fault because you've now changed that out with Monty and with Frank Vogel. And if you run Mike Budenholzer out of here, it ain't going to change a damn thing. It starts at the top. Start looking at that front office. James Jones, your seat's hot. It should be hotter than it's ever been before. Start looking at in that locker room and at the roster and deciding who's really here for the long term and who is time to pack up and ship out. It needs to change. It's not acceptable. It is time to blow it up in every way, shape, or form.
And make no mistake, the Suns did this to themselves in the sense that they went all in. They got to the point where they retooled the roster. They did every single move in the book possible to say, hey, we're going to put ourselves in a position to win. Your expectations should be different. And they failed. And they failed and they failed and they failed, whether it's health, whether now it's on the court too, because like you said, Gerald, you can't be missing one of your stars and still perform like this.
Yeah.
Even if you miss two of your stars, like you look at the Orlando Magic, right? Jamal Mosley should win Coach of the Year. And that is because they have been punched in the mouth repeatedly on the court, off the court with injuries, and you see how that team responds. It is not a head down, woe is me, no effort on defense. Other team can light us up from three. No, they try. They actually understand and know, hey, we have an identity. Hey, we are going to be embarrassed if we do not go out there and give it our all. And even if we lose, effort is never a question. And that's not the case here. And that's not acceptable. You can have flaws. You can have a flawed roster. You can be too small. You can have a center rotation that's not playable, really, especially in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, the most indicting thing on this team is effort. Is the inability to put your head down. And in this game specifically, let's focus about the Denver Nuggets loss tonight. The fact that you were not able to be in a mentality to win the non-Nikola Jokic minutes, which it is usually a death sentence for the Denver Nuggets when Nikola Jokic is on the bench, right? Your offensive rating drops by about 25, right? When he is off the court, the Nuggets are a shell of themselves. Not to mention, it was in the first half, which this season, the Nuggets in the first half are an absolute different team than in the second half. All those things add up, and you still lose the Nikola Jokic minutes. Just to paint a picture, in the first half coming into tonight for Denver, they were 13th in offensive rating, 29th in defensive rating, and 21st in net rating. In the second half coming into tonight, 3rd in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, 2nd in net. And you saw the second half play out, but the first half, you can't take advantage of either of those things.
It doesn't matter what these teams come in net ranked or anything, because we saw, just like the other night, I mean, the net ranking was terrible when you looked at it for the Pacers. They were 23rd in offense. They still dropped 41 points in the first quarter. This is not an opponent problem. This is a Suns problem at this point. And you can't sit there and deal with, the fact that these other teams aren't good. You're not good at this point. It doesn't matter the opponent. You're making them look like world beaters at this point. And there is no easy fix. There is no simple solution. Like you were saying, Gerald, there's not switch out one part and everything magically changes. Right now, I think this team, as much as we wanted to believe there was leadership, as much as we wanted to believe there was change in approach, I don't think there is. I think we're sitting in the same exact spot we were sitting last year with this team, right around the same time, where we thought it was Frank Vogel. Well, guess what? It's not. It's the same thing you're dealing with now. And I refuse to believe that Mike Budenholzer is just having the same exact problems as Frank Vogel because of him.
Yeah, no, it's on everyone involved, and it's mainly on the guys that were still here from last year, the holdovers that, we talked about continuity and all that. It's going to make a difference for this team this year, and they upgraded all the pieces around it. Well, none of that is panning out right now, and we've talked about how some of the role players have played well recently. It's on the main guys involved. It's on the guys who were the problem last year. And I don't know how you fix what we're seeing right now. There's no, short of blowing it up and completely starting from scratch, which I'm personally not there yet. I know a lot of people are. There is no there's no Jimmy Butler that's going to come in and save you. There is no one trade that you're going to make that's suddenly going to turn your fortunes around. This is going to have to come internally, or you are going to have to blow it up.
But at the same time, I feel like you can't just do nothing, right? You can't just not make a trade because one trade's not going to fix you. I think you still need to try to improve. And sure, a Jimmy Butler trade on the court might not be what you need to fix everything. But mentality-wise, right? Because you can get a loudmouth on the team like a Patrick Beverley since he's so desperately begging to be in Phoenix. It's different to take that type of criticism from a player who would not even be in your rotation right now versus who would be a top 3 player on your team in Jimmy Butler. And if you trade for that, maybe. And again, I'm not saying I would bet on this given the track record of what's been going on with this team, but just maybe trading for Jimmy Butler and making a move at the center rotation to get a simpler center with more simple skills like verticality and rim running. Maybe just that quick shift, because you mentioned it when we were watching the game, Gerald. This is not the same team that we saw through the first 9 games of the season. And this is a team that when they were at their height, when they were playing well, it was like, wow, is this one of the best teams in the NBA? somewhere deep down, it's locked in there. They have not shown us that they can tap into that ever, really, except for at that moment at the beginning of the season. But you have to try, because I don't think blowing it up is on Matt Ishbia's radar.
Well, but look, okay, you trade for Jimmy Butler, and if that costs you Bradley Beal, and that's, you somehow make that magically work, right? Do these guys buy into Jimmy Butler's attitude, or does it not work? Does Jimmy Butler just rub people the wrong way? Like, I don't know what we have to believe that there's something locked deep down inside that can be shaken awake with this group. Like, I've hit a point where you can't sell me on that anymore. You can't tell me just wait till somebody gets healthy, or just wait until there's multiple, games together and it'll happen. I've waited. I'm done waiting.
So
I'm over it.
But what needs to change then? Like, what? Because you were saying blow it up, but if you blow it up, you're doing a rebuild. Like, what does blow it up mean to you?
Well, I think you make a first move to see if something like a Jimmy Butler helps. Now, that's easier said than done, because everything I've heard, and even Mark Stein insinuated this in his latest newsletter, is that the Suns may be interested, but it doesn't really sound like Miami's interested if Beal is what they're getting, right? So you're up against it anyways to try to figure out how to make a deal work, but I would consider some kind of Jimmy Butler type trade first, right? You got to see if you can salvage it, right? Just because I don't believe in it doesn't mean you don't try, right?
Yeah.
I'm jaded. I've been sold a hill of beans multiple times here in Phoenix, and I'm just not willing to believe they're magical anymore, right?
Sure.
But you have to try. So that's the first step. And then if that doesn't work, in the offseason, you got to seriously think about, do you just admit defeat and try to create some kind of younger core and recoup some of your assets and try something different? Because repeatedly running it back and just blowing through that money with less and less hope each year with an older and older core, it is crazy to continue doing. Now, do I hope they figure it out? Do I hope they make a move and it unlocks something? Yeah, of course. I'm at a point where I just don't believe anymore.
But that's not a blow up, though. Like, you're saying wait till the offseason to do that. That's not a blow up.
Okay. Well,
I mean, they can't blow it up in the offseason.
If you trade one of the three major pieces, right? That's a minor blow up. If you fire somebody in the front office, want
change.
I want a major shakeup to start with, blowing it up on the table in the offseason if you don't get a result that makes you feel better about where you are.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think, like, firing James Jones, especially when we know how involved Ishbia and Josh Bartelstein are, is that just offering up a piece of meat? Like, how much does that actually change?
I think that's part of it. I don't think that solves anything on the court, right? But I think there is something to be said over, like, this is unacceptable, right? It is unacceptable to have a team that is like this, have a mentality like this. And here's the thing: you can't fire the coach. You are not in a position to do that. Right. You're not trading Devin Booker. I would say that 99% sure you're not trading Kevin Durant, right? Unless Kevin Durant walks into your office and says, I don't want to be here anymore, which, to be honest with you, I feel like is on the table. Not anything that he said, not anything that anybody's insinuated, but you have to take a look at the situation going on. And if the vibes continue like this, why would Kevin Durant want to spend the rest of his career here when he could be in a win now situation, which this is not proving to be, right? So maybe the change starts somewhere. Maybe James Jones, unfortunately, is the sacrificial lamb, right? And I'm not saying that that's going to change anything, but it does send some sort of message. I think, to me, making a minor trade now and not even banking on the Jimmy Butler trade, because if you're banking on that one big swing, you're still doubling down on an identity behind three players who have to be healthy at the same time. And Bradley Beal and Jimmy Butler are in the same category of you play two, you miss two. You play two, you miss two. Like, that's just who they are as players right now, whether we like it or not.
But you're not going to trade Bradley Beal magically for somebody that doesn't have some inherent flaws. If you're still married to this and you're just looking to, change out some furniture here, and it's not going to magically be some guy that is 6 years younger, that's not injured at all and is better. Like that's what you committed yourself to. So if you're going to change anything, you're going to change it for somebody else's potentially injured star that isn't consistent. Like nobody's bailing you out of this, right?
And I'll be honest, like we haven't even touched on this, but like he is in control. He has the magic wand.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to go anywhere if he doesn't want to. Like maybe the situation continues to progressively get worse and all of these guys rethink what they're building or what they're trying to build here in Phoenix. But like as of right now, everybody's just assuming that, you can try and trade him or you can try and convince him to go to Miami, let alone the Heat side of things. But like Brad wanted to be here. He wants to be here as of when we talked to him a few days ago. Like I understand that people want to see wholesale change. I understand that they want to see a firing or a trade or whatever, but we also have to be realistic to the fact that like having a firing in name is not going to change the roster that you put together.
No.
Making a panic trade now, like you're not getting Jimmy Butler right now. I'm sorry. Like the Heat are not going to take Bradley Beal, even if Beal waives his no trade clause. So like you're looking at small moves on the periphery, which again, do not fix the inherent issue with you needing your best players to be healthy, you needing your best players to be better, you needing your team to come together and play like they give a damn. Like those are things that have to come internally. So I hate to break it to everybody that's expecting some big move to come in and change the equation, but like, I don't know if that is coming or if it's realistic to expect that.
Yeah, and I don't even think that I'm sitting here from a logical place wanting something like that. It's from the fan side of it where you're kind of like, you're just shown a cliff's edge and you're just getting pushed towards it. And there's nothing that you could do about it. And you see it, like you know what's happening, but you don't have any choice but to get closer and closer to it. And you're just like, oh, by the way, can I have a parachute? No, sorry, parachute's in the second tax apron. You're not allowed to have a parachute. Can I, have a rope to try to like climb down the side? Oh, no, sorry, your rope is too expensive and no other team wants the rope. Like it's no way out, which is why this feels so damning. It's why this is worse than last season, because you don't even have the hope of, oh, well, what if they do this next season? What if you get it later? Because we've already seen this story written before. You put it out on social media, Espo, where it's like, it's not just 30% of this season, it's all of last season as well. And there's so much that builds into it. And we're going to continue this conversation. We appreciate all of you sharing your energy in chat right now. I get it. Let it all out. Vent. I understand. Hit that like button as well. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX. We do have so much more. Wait till y'all see who the big, bright, shining star is. We have By the Numbers, everything else coming up right after this break. Maybe you don't want to watch basketball anymore. Maybe you want to watch football, but you want to watch football in a unique way in person on December 26th, and that is at a baseball stadium. That is Chase Field in downtown Phoenix, because it's always hopping around the holidays, and you can huddle up at Chase Field for some college football postseason action the day after Christmas. That's this week. In case you forgot, it's Rutgers taking on Kansas State, Big 10 versus Big 12, the only bowl game that features those two conferences facing off against each other. It's one of the most unique and fun atmospheres in all of college sports, not just college football, but maybe all of sports, period. Because how often can you go watch a football game at a baseball stadium? And you can get in with your family, whether you want to continue the holiday celebration, or maybe you just want to go buy a solo seat and hang out and watch a little football to decompress. Game tickets, premium experiences, and reserved parking are all available, and you can get yours right now at ratebowl.com.
Look, if you want to bet on something, betting on the Suns to lose on Christmas Day seems like it's been a pretty solid one over the last few years.
I might need to take that one.
If you're looking for a place to do it, our friends over at Bet365 are there for you. You can sign up using the promo code PHNX365, and they've got quite the deal for you right now. New customers who use that code when you sign up and deposit $10 and place a bet of $5 or more, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. It's just that simple. And say tonight you put your money on the Denver Nuggets to win, right? Well, you would have banked a win in the third quarter, because when your team goes up 20, doesn't matter if they win or lose after that, you're automatically getting the win, whether it's a solo bet or in a parlay, you're winning. So download the app, use that promo code PHNX365, place that bet of $5 or more. After you deposit 10, you're getting 150 in bonus bets. Find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
So I know a lot of people don't want to talk specifically about this game, so I'm going to push it off just a little bit, because I think the conversation we're having is what's dominating every Phoenix Suns fan's mind. And there is a place that I want to go with it, but Espo, you seem like you have something on your mind.
Gerald, I want to ask, you obviously don't see a clear path to changing anything except something internally happening.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see a path to that? Because that's where I struggle. And maybe it's just because I am so sick of watching bad basketball that I can't see the forest for the trees. But how do you see a path to that, or do you know?
Well, let me be perfectly
Gerald,
clear.
fix the team.
Let me be perfectly clear. It does need to come internally. I have no idea what's going on inside that locker room in terms of what needs to change, in terms of how it needs to improve. But what we're seeing tonight and what we've seen the last handful of games against very lackluster or mediocre opponents is just unacceptable. And I'm trying to say that it needs to be internal, because that's kind of their only option that feels realistic to me. Like a Jimmy Butler trade does not feel like something that's going to happen to me. And I could be wrong on that. But like convincing Miami to accept Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler without having to throw in a pick, and all you have is one first-round pick, doesn't feel realistic. And even if you get Jimmy Butler, I don't think one guy is going to come in and change everything. It's going to fix the center rotation. You still probably have to make another trade there. But guess what? If you traded for Jimmy Butler, there's a good chance that most, if not all, of your draft capital that you are able to trade went out the window in that trade. So good luck upgrading the center position, given all the restraints you're up against there. So I do think that if you're looking at this, like, they've signed a lot of these guys to a lot of money. Their trade flexibility is limited in terms of how they could tweak on the margins. And at the end of the day, we've been saying this since last year, the big three has to be better. Your three highest paid guys have to be better. They have to take better care of the ball. They have to lead by example. They have to get a passable defense on the court. You don't even need to be an elite defense right now to just string some regular season wins together. You just can't be bottom three teams in the league, which is what they've been on the defensive end for weeks now. So for me, I have no idea how internally, like whether it's Coach Budenholzer calling a meeting, someone on the team calling a meeting, I don't know who that person is, but they need a come to Jesus moment, because right now they're getting their teeth kicked in. There's no fight out there. And it's just unacceptable. And it's not going to change from some savior move on the outside.
And I think the most telling thing in your entire statement, which was very well done, by the way, was I don't know who's going to call that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Who in the room is holding people accountable? And I hope there is, but the way that everybody is playing, the way that they are showing up, especially coming out of halftime as well, I'm not so sure somebody is standing up. I'm not sure Coach Budenholzer is doing that to the point where he needs to. Where is the accountability? These are some of the greatest players in the league. This was a roster built to win today. Not next year, not in the future, not, hey, we'll compete and maybe we'll be frisky. This was a team that is supposed to hold itself to a higher standard. So who in that locker room is going to call everybody out and say, we need to be at a higher standard?
No one, because we had the same conversation last year.
And that's the problem.
You know who did it? Absolutely no one. And so at what point, again, do you just say, this is who they are? They talk about we don't have an identity. Yeah, you do have an identity. It's exactly this. If you don't like it, it's on you to change it as a team, right? You got to come together and you got to show, you got to show that you care just as much as the fans care. Just, and we've yet to see that, at least as of late. The 9-2 start was all wonderful and everything, but to Gerald's point, since KD went out, those vibes or whatever you want to call it that went south have permeated everything. And to me, that's a sign of a group that doesn't have the mental fortitude that you need to make it through the tough times. And that's what is disturbing in some ways to me. And you hope Mike Budenholzer would come in and that he'd have the accountability to or the ability to hold these guys accountable with it. And it's not showing right now either. And again, at what point do you have to stop saying it's the coach? Because like, if two different guys can't hold them accountable, then at some point it may just be that these guys don't want to be held accountable.
Well, and so let's breach the topic of conversation that we have been towing around, okay? And I understand this is a post-game show, but screw it, we're going down this road anyway. We talked about how hard it is for them to make a win-now trade, for them to fix their problems to win currently with the trade. But can they fix their problems by trading Kevin Durant? And I'm not saying Kevin Durant's asking for this. I'm not saying I'm advocating for this. But at what point do you personally, Espo, sit back and say, you know what? I'm going to listen to probably my most valuable trade asset and see what I can get for him on the market if it's worth it.
You can't go down that route until an off season. And even then, you got to ask yourself, what is our main goal? And if it's simply recoup assets, then sure, you're having a different conversation. At that point, everything's on the table and you're going, okay, how do we reset this for 3-4 years down the line? I don't see necessarily Matt Ishbia being willing to do that or wanting to do that right now. I mean, in part, this team's got an all-star game coming up in town in 2027. You don't want to be in the throes of a rebuild with that, because that seems like a dumb thing, but these are things that are thought about in these franchises, right? You don't go down that road until this off season, and if you go down that road, you're going down probably a very long, very dark path to get back.
I get what you're saying, but also I feel like there's a way to get to the middle ground. You're not going to strip it down to the bare bones and go back to 7-8 years ago when everything was terrible and you were a top team in the lottery every single year. But I think you might hit a point where clearly this makeup isn't working. Clearly what you have going on is not working, and maybe you trade for some draft assets and a young player, and you try to package it in the future for another, win now player. And here's the thing about waiting towards the offseason. And I love Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's clearly been the best player on this team. This team has been nothing without Kevin Durant on the court for them this season. This is not me advocating to trade Kevin Durant. This is not me saying this is what I believe Matt Ishbia would do. However, if you get to a point where you can get 2 to 3, maybe 4 first-round picks and a young player or two for Kevin Durant, at a certain point, when do you start to entertain that, Gerald?
But you're already tied. You're tied to Beal. If you're not moving on from Beal and you're keeping Booker, there's zero reason to go down that path that's going to make sense, because you're locked into this for the next 2 years just because of that situation. So there's no middle ground here. There's no, we're going to half go in and half go out. Like, either you're in this or you're out of this. And that's the way this has been built and the way you've structured it and the assets that you mortgaged to get here. I just don't see a 1 foot in, 1 foot out solution, Gerald.
Yeah. If you are trading Kevin Durant, I can say, like, this is just a fact. The Suns are not going to trade Kevin Durant unless he comes to their doorstep and asks for one.
Sure, yeah.
So that kind of makes the conversation moot. But hypothetically, in terms of when a Kevin Durant trade would make sense, I don't think you do it until the offseason. And I think that's only if Kevin Durant wants out. Like, he's been your best player. And unless you are trading Kevin Durant for one of the 2 or 3 or 4 players who are having a better season than him this year, you're not making your team better. You're taking a step backward, because like Espo said, Beal is still on the books. He still has that no trade clause. He still has another year on his contract and then a player option after that. So it's like, if you're trading Kevin Durant, you're getting worse. Yes, you're getting more assets to rebuild, but you're also telling Devin Booker, hey, we're trading your best teammate that you've ever had, and we're going to get worse next year, but it's for the long run. At this point of Devin Booker's career, is he going to be patient with that? Is he going to
Sure.
understand that? Is he going to be okay with that?
He shouldn't.
Because, yeah, and that's the thing, is if he doesn't, then you are opening the door to a complete rebuild, retool. So I just don't think you trade Kevin Durant unless he wants to be traded.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you guys. And I said that earlier. It's just more about when you're sitting here at this moment and you're like, man, there's really no great way out. You have to explore every different possibility, at least bring it up. And I'm sure they're doing the same thing in the front office, even if they're not seriously considering it. I'm sure that there have been thoughts and conversations about it. And I'll say this, and this is my opinion. You do not do anything with this team that Devin Booker does not want you to do. Because in my mind, the only way that this gets to absolute worst case scenario is Devin Booker walking in there and saying, I no longer want to be a Phoenix Sun. That's something I cannot handle more than any losing season, disappointing, whatever. Can't lose that guy as a Phoenix Sun.
I agree to an extent when it comes to you don't do something that Devin Booker doesn't want. If you as a front office believe that the move does make you better, just because a player doesn't want it, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. A player will get over it if the results go the way that you want.
Yeah, if you think you're going to be significantly better.
If you believe in it, you make some kind of move and play it out. But what this team needs to do, if you're only going to be able to play on the margins and you're not making something bigger, you need to look, how do we get a more athletic center or a defensive-minded center? How do you get a defensive-minded wing? How do you start chipping away at those issues that have been the biggest? And we know that defense and that mentality is the start of it. So how do you find that? And you know, center rotation is a big part of it. How do you find that? And you're going to have to get creative. And again, it's probably not one guy makes all the world's difference, but how do you start chipping away at the little things with the few options that you have, right? And maybe that is the start, right? You find those smaller things that you can do, because sometimes even the smallest move can bring in new energy that can help start to shift things, right?
Yeah.
And how do you address that on the margins? And it's not going to be easy because you backed yourself into the corner that you're in. But can you figure it out? Well, that's how a front office makes their money. That's how a Matt Tellem proves that he is a cap genius. It's how Josh Bartlesey and James Jones prove that they know what they're doing in talent evaluation.
Sometimes the only way out is through, and I'm not even saying that they're going to get out. I'm not saying that, you know, they can do this perfectly. They can tinker on the margins and bring in some good players. They could bring in a Jimmy Butler and somehow magically trade for an upgrade at center, and it still might not fix the underlying problem or lead to a championship. So I'm not trying to sell you anything right now. But I will say that their best path to me is still figuring it out internally. Like, and I know that that's not what anyone wants to hear right now. It might not even be realistic, but I don't think that trading Kevin Durant is the option. I don't think trading Devin Booker is going to, like, some of y'all are already saying, blow it up. Let's bring on a rebuild, all this stuff. The last time they did a rebuild, it took them 10 years, 11 years to get back to the playoffs. And it is not guaranteed to go that swimmingly. We have seen other franchises flounder year after year in the draft. And I have more faith in the front office now when it comes to drafting, based on what I've seen from Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. But you have to get a lot of luck. You have to have a lot of patience. And right now, I understand the fan base's expectations for this group are different. There's no time for patience because this team's window is what it is. But, like, I don't think some of you are prepared to go back to those dark days of waiting for draft picks to be better. Like, you don't slam the door shut on this until you are absolutely sure that nothing else can be done with this current group. I personally am not there yet.
Well, and I want to be clear. When I was saying that, I wasn't advocating for...
No, I know, but the people in the people in the mentions and in the chat, and I understand the frustration. I understand the lack of hope, and I understand feeling like this group has hit its wall. I feel that way too, but I don't think, like, the path to rebuilding is not as simple as you guys think it is.
Well, no, it's not.
I also can't just sit and do absolutely nothing.
No, you can't do that either.
You need to make a minimum some move on the margin. And we're going to talk more about that. We're going to get to all of your super chats, but we are going to take one more break. I'm so grateful for our next sponsor, especially in times like these. Because Colt Cannabis and True Leave are on board here at PHNX, and I feel like I might be Colt Cannabis's #1 fan. In fact, we do a diehard only show called PHNX Puffs, where me and one of our producers, Kevin, we puff some Colt Cannabis, and we do a little show just for the diehards only. And let me tell you what, Colt Cannabis is now available at your local True Leave dispensary with a huge variety of premium flower and emphasis on premium. A True Leave exclusive magic marker that Valley's been asking for her. Now she's back. Visit TrueLeaf.com and find the local shop near you to place an order and tell them PHNX sent you. Great flower is really hard to find these days, but luckily our friends over at Colt Cannabis, they've been dropping absolute fire over here at the PHNX studios. You can tell by the way that it smells when you walk in. And make sure you also check out the new True Leaf location opening in Maricopa on January 11th. Get over to TrueLeaf.com, find your local shop, or place an order and tell them PHNX sent you.
Heck, you could have been a mile high while watching Coach Bud tonight. All right. Anyways, the Fiesta Bowl. Viva the fans, Viva New Year's Eve, and Viva a new era of college football. That's right. The Verbo Fiesta Bowl kicks off December 31st at 5:30 p.m., and it is Penn State versus our friends up in Boise, the Boise State Broncos, the home of the Smurf turf. And look, man, these are two teams that have never lost in the Fiesta Bowl, right? Neither of these teams have ever lost the Fiesta Bowl, so somebody will lose. History will be made in this college football playoff game. So be there to witness the history. Get your tickets at fiestabowl.com/tickets. And Viva Fiesta! Join us for the first ever college football quarterfinals at the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Buy your tickets, reserve parking, and premium experiences at fiestabowl.org/tickets. Yes, and Viva Fiesta.
Oh, we are having a fiesta tonight. Thank you all for being in here right now. I know everybody's upset and angry, but maybe just take your anger out on that like button. It does help us out a ton. Hit that subscribe button as well.
Just smash the crap out of it.
If you want to hit it twice, hit it twice. If you want to hit it 45 times for the amount of points scored in the third quarter by the Denver Nuggets, then you hit it 45 times. Let's get to some of your super chats, and some of you have been patiently waiting for us to read those. We appreciate all of you. If you want your comment read on screen, go ahead and send us a super chat. Mark R says, do y'all think Ishbia will learn being a college bench warmer and Rich doesn't qualify him to make basketball decisions, and that $2 hot dog only goes so far?
Look, why is the assumption, I get that Matt Ishbia is involved, but why is the assumption that he's making every call? They were working on a framework of a Kevin Durant deal. Like it wasn't like that all came together the first day that he was sitting in the front office. But it feels like
the framework was there, but he's the one that walked in and said,
okay,
do it.
but they were talking about it the
off
offseason before. And I'm not I'm not here to defend a rich guy. He can do that himself. He can pay for people to do it. But the fact is, I don't think that this is just Matt Ishbia's problem. Like this goes further back. James Jones messing up draft picks puts you in a position where you don't have as much young talent, right? So when you go to trade a handful of guys, the cupboard's bare because you missed on a bunch of draft picks as well. Like there are multiple reasons that this team is where it's at. And I don't think it just falls on a new owner. I don't think it just falls on a front office. And I don't think it just falls on the players. But when you put it all together, you're right where you are.
Yeah, I think having an aggressive owner is obviously what people are going to chalk up the state of this current team to. They're going to, look at, coming in and trading for Kevin Durant on day one and then trading for Bradley Beal in the first offseason. But I can promise you, Matt Ishbia is not out there like writing up scouting reports. Like he is delegating to his guys that he has fixed in there in James Jones, Josh Bartelstein, the whole front office. So I know people are going to look at Ishbia and try to put it on him. But the reality is, like, a lot of basketball minds that I consider better than mine also liked what the Phoenix Suns did over the summer in terms of the pieces that they put around this big three. It's just not working. And that's why we're so confused and trying to figure out next steps here and probably floundering in doing that, is because this team should be better than what it is. Even with the flawed center rotation, even with, bringing in a new coach and new pieces and all this other stuff, even with all these questions about leadership and this, that, and the other thing, like this team should be better, even when one of the big three is out. So we're trust me, we're trying to figure this out, but I wouldn't go throwing shade at the owner for doing things that make the fan experience better either.
And this is also like, as Phoenix Suns fans, I won't speak for everybody, but a majority of us ask for this. Give us the owner that's going to go all in, that's going to spend all the money, that's going to put all their chips in the middle of the table, because we were lacking that. In fact, we had the opposite of it. I was a big fan of both of the big trades, Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. And obviously there are lots of parts of what I believe to be true that are wrong, right? The thing is, a franchise does take the identity of their owner on. And Matt Ishbia is a very gung-ho, we're going to win. But I wouldn't want it any other way, despite the situation we're in right now, even if the decisions, like you mentioned, Gerald, we agreed with them at the time. We all thought the Suns were going to be better. Ended up being wrong. Thank you, Mark, for your super chat. Michael with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Says, embarrassed to be a Suns fan in Ball Arena tonight. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Nobody was counting money in there tonight. Be calm, see clearly. $2 super chat. You know it's bad when these are normal. And dang, I miss Booker so much. Please come back. We appreciate your super chat. Be calm, see clearly. Hope you get back to your old self soon. See why not 100 with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Said, I find it hard to believe that the Clippers, who let PG walk for free with one of the toughest schedules, are 17-13 without Kawhi. And the Suns ...
Because they've got dogs on that team.
They do.
They got guys that just play beyond their skill level in a lot of cases. They go out there and they play their asses off. And I think sometimes, like you said, the Suns team gets punched in the mouth, and they don't.
They also have a culture and identity, and more than one guy who's been here more than 2 years.
And that's fair.
Yeah, and I think LA is a perfect example, just like Orlando, of you miss some of your best players, you go through injury troubles. Sometimes it is a mentality thing to say, how do you respond to that? Those are two teams who respond well. The Suns are not. Maze Devil 18 with a $2 super chat. Thank you. Says, was the Beal trade the worst one in Suns history? I feel like that's a whole episode, and I know Gerald's answer.
It's not even close.
No, it's not.
It's a 3-second response. No.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can think of one off the top of my head that you traded, Bogdanovic and picks for Marquise Chris. And that's just without actually digging deeper. That's just literally off the top of my head.
Base God Flashy with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Says, why do we need to trade a star for a star? Big threes are just not a winning formula unless you're the Celtics, who have an entire team of solid role players. I don't think you need to trade a star for the star. Just usually that's how salaries line up. And I feel like most of the time people want to look at a star to fix their problems. But if you could trade Bradley Beal for some solid role players that fit a certain style and scheme, then do it. But I just don't think that trade exists.
Yeah.
Okay, how are we saying teams with stars don't win, right? Because
you need stars to win.
Look at the Celtics. Porzingis, Brown, Tatum, 3 stars. Like, I get it. Well, and Drew Holiday. I mean,
Derek White's playing just at their level too.
Look, I get it, because 2 of those guys were homegrown, and maybe that's more the point. Your mercenaries aren't winning necessarily in this league, but star power matters. It's just, how does the chemistry work? And I think that's what this all comes back to, is the chemistry isn't coming together. The human element isn't working together. And why is the question? I don't think anybody knows that answer.
Well, I think that was probably more pointed towards my comment earlier about, if you're trading Kevin Durant, it has to be for one of the handful of guys that have had a better season. But to that point, it's just because I don't see a trade where you're trading Kevin Durant to a team and you're getting the right mix of high-end role players or established talent that's going to make this team better than just keeping Kevin Durant. And to the Bradley Beal thing, we've talked about what to expect in a Bradley Beal trade and how he holds all the power. So, and you're not trading Book. I don't think you should be trading Book. So that's kind of my thinking there.
And Base God Flashy follows up. It just said, Espa, their point was, it works for the Celtics specifically, but for other teams, it feels like sometimes when you have 3, especially max contracts, it puts you in a tough position. The Celtics have 2 max contracts and then a lot of really big contracts that they're in the luxury tax for, but not another max. We appreciate you, Base God Flashy. Mr. Grimm with 2 super chats. First one, $5, says, is this what it's like to be a Clippers fan? Yikes. Another $5 super chat from Mr. Grimm. Thank you. Says, do you think the $2 menu changes were foreshadowing this bad of a month? Is Ishbia that good? Was he getting out ahead of the failures with good PR and press?
Yes, because he has the capability of seeing into the future. He just decided not to avert any of the things that are happening basketball-wise and just thought, you know what? PR, that's where we're going to fix all this. No, I think that's probably something that's been in the works for a while, that they had to figure out the logistics of how to lower those prices with the people that they work with that facilitate the food and beverage at the arena, and it just happened to coincide with this. I don't think it has anything to do with it, knowing the inner workings of that stuff.
A lot of these things, when they're announced, they have been in the works for a while. He's not like just sitting on a throne and like, today, from henceforth, $2 hot dogs for everyone.
That would be really cool, though. If
You
you
all
had
shall
eat. Make a bougie lounge for the rich and cut the hot dog prices for everybody else.
But I can't fix the basketball. That's where I draw the line. I do decree we can do nothing about the big three.
Dude, we are screwed. And there's nothing I can do about that. Final super chat comes from Trevor. Thank you, Trevor. Says, is book out for the Xmas game still not won on Christmas? Not officially, but I really hope so. Because
I do too.
it was another Christmas game 2 years ago that you brought Booker back with
Against
a
Denver.
groin injury
Right?
against Denver. And that did not go well. All right. We do have so much more. We appreciate all of you for being in here. We appreciate all of you for dropping your super chats in there. We will still read more super chats throughout the show. If you decide to submit them, we will get to a very incredible by the numbers, a really incredible, big, bright, shining star. You won't even know what's coming when we hit those. But first, our final break. Just feels like the Suns run out of gas a lot. They're definitely not members of the inner circle. Like I know you are, and if for some reason you're not, well, it's super, super easy.
I don't want to know where you have to fill this team up.
You need to find somewhere because they're right out of gas, but they could join the inner circle for free, which is a Circle K free membership program. And for their first 5 fill-ups, they can get 25 cents off per gallon. Even though I know Matt Ishbia isn't pinching pennies, I'm sure he still likes to save money. And if he joins the inner circle after the first 5 fill-ups, you get 3 cents off per gallon every single day. And eventually you hit the Espo level. And I'll call it the Espo level because I know that he's not in a good place with this team right now. Only Espo gets it, and definitely not everybody else.
No, let's just say I was the first to cross that threshold, and I give it to you, the people.
I do decree 5 cents off per every gallon after that. Plus, so many other deals. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
Hey, guess what? You're not going to see a parade because of the Suns, but I can get you a parade in Phoenix in January, or actually this month, not even January. It's December 28th. You can go out and see the Fiesta Bowl parade because it's a new era in the Valley of the Sun as they merge tradition and history with innovation and pageantry and fun in the 53rd annual Verbo Fiesta Bowl Parade presented by Lerner and Rowe. Head out there, like I said, on December 28th. You're going to see all the colorful floats, balloons, community groups, marching bands, and so much more as they go through Central Phoenix. Plus, their Grand Marshal is ASU and Mesa wrestling champion Anthony Robles, who is the subject of the upcoming movie Unstoppable. So check it out. Join us in person on Saturday, December 28th at 10 a.m. That's this Saturday. Or watch it live on AZ Family 3 TV. For parade route and more information, check out fiestabowl.org/parade.
It's the moment everybody's been waiting for. Time to get back to this wonderful game and discuss it. And I think that means it's time for By the Numbers, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes.
What's in the box?
What's in the box is a loss to the Denver Nuggets, and the stats don't look good, guys. In the heart category, the Suns had 0, and the Nuggets, unfortunately, had more than 0. In the fun category, it's the same exact numbers, 0 and more than 0. And in the wins, it is 0 and once again more than 0, 1 for the Nuggets. Second half points really stood out. It was 62-39 in Denver's favor. They scored 39 points in the second half.
We rounded up just for fun.
Let's be honest. The Nuggets also had one time machine because they made DeAndre Jordan look about a decade younger in that second half as well. There were a couple lobs.
DeAndre Jordan look a lot
crap! Like it's just not fun.
No, not fun at all, which let's continue to have this not fun train rolling. Let's get to our big, bright, shining star presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for more details. It is...
I'm a big, bright, shining star.
Guys, we can't... There's nobody...
Error.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not the 404.
Oops.
No star could be found.
There was no star tonight. And let's get into this game a little bit. We're about 50 minutes into the post-game show. I feel like let's talk a little bit about the basketball that was played.
There was none. Congratulations. We're done.
What was, for your guys' money, the biggest on-court problem, not just effort, but for the Suns tonight?
There was no rhythm. There was no flow. I mean, there were times where they were taking 23 seconds to get in their offense again. They had a shot clock violation where Bradley Beal, didn't even manage to get a shot off. It wasn't like it was an air ball. He didn't even get a shot off. Like, there were just those little things mixed with some of the turnovers. It just felt like an amalgamation of everything that has caused losses this year jammed into one giant issue.
Yeah, I can't point to anything other than the third quarter. You get outscored 45-28, and I keep coming back to this because some things, like, even for me, go beyond the X's and O's and the execution and the different aspect of the game. Like, you look at that third quarter and you could see them reverting into bad mindsets, into old habits, into, well, we've been here before, we've seen this before, we're going to curl up and they're just going to keep punching us. And that's what happened in the third quarter again. And we, like Eric said in pregame and on the show, we knew that the Nuggets were a better second half team, a drastically different second half team. But we've seen this happen too often in the third quarter or in another quarter where the other team just gets going and it spirals and it gets out of control. And it makes no sense because it feels like what we saw in the 2022 playoffs in Game 7. But none of these guys on the court tonight were there for that game. No. It's like, I don't want to use the C word in terms of a curse.
Oh, whoo.
Curse.
No, good.
A curse. You're allowed to say good.
Whoa, hey,
in terms
it's
of
bad,
a curse.
But Gerald's going off the rails.
But it feels like there's something with this organization, and maybe other fan bases feel this way too, but I've never seen a team continually over multiple years get punched like this and continually curl up and have things spiral and snowball to this point of embarrassment. It's a weird thing. It's something that's been happening over the last few weeks, and it's why they need this come to Jesus moment. Because again, you could trade for Jimmy Butler, you could pull off this trade, he could come in and, have this leadership, this rah-rah in your face leadership. But at the end of the day, the players are who they are, and they have to respond to it better than they have.
You know what? If I'm Coach Bud, and luckily for the Suns I'm not, I would start Ryan Dunn and Oso Guidaro on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? These guys at least will bring the energy. At least they're going to try hard because they've got youthful exuberance and they don't know better in terms of that. And just make a point on that front, because I'm sorry, but what Yusuf Nurkic did out there in the one matchup that supposedly he's tailor-made for wasn't good enough. Wasn't even in the realm of good enough. Wasn't in the shouting distance of passable today, right? And the defense wasn't either. So why not, explore some different ways to try to shake up that malaise that you saw in particular in the third quarter? Because again, sometimes, the old young, dumb, and hungry is exactly what you need to try to get over some of these things that feel like they plague you.
Yeah, and you are sitting at a point where earlier in this show, we said somebody needs to send a message. Somebody needs to step up and go, this is not okay. And if you just carry on like it's business as usual and it's same old, same rotation, same motivational speech before the game, same warm-up, same practice, at a certain point, that is on the coach. And I think we need to hold the players accountable. And I think most of the time we talk about the players besides pointing out a couple strange rotations here and there. But I'm with you, Espo. Send a message. Start the rookies. Do something that's going to shake somebody awake. Because if, Gerald, you're correct, which I believe you are, which is the number one way for everything to get fixed is somehow, some way, something clicking internally. Well, I don't believe that's going to happen. You need to start throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, because throwing your hands up and just saying, it is what it is, this is who we are, That's loser, man. That's just loser mentality, and I cannot handle that. And they're playing like losers right now. They're giving effort like losers right now. And I came into this game, Denver, dead last in 3-point attempts. They outshot the Suns 41-33 from behind the arc. The Suns way better at shooting threes, as statistically, as far as attempts, as far as makes go. And Denver had 11 more threes than their average, and they were just firing away. It's every single time the Phoenix Suns play a team, they become Steph Curry from three. They're launching away, even if it's their biggest weaknesses. You go up against the Pacers, and rebounding was a big problem for the Pacers. The Pacers had hustle and heart, and they made it up on the rebounding end, right?
I mean, that's where we're at.
I know.
That's who this is. And again, that's the identity. And at some point, you can try the rookies. Maybe that wakes them up. Maybe not. But
gotta do something.
The point is, I need to feel like there's an attempt to try to wake people up, and running it back again on Christmas Day with the exact same starting lineup and hoping that all of a sudden it clicks and the third quarter is better just seems naive to me at this point.
Yeah.
Do we want to look at the report
Gerald,
card?
do you want to start?
I've seen Gerald hoop. I'll tell you what. One thing about Gerald Bourguet on the court, you never have to question the heart. You never have to question the hustle.
Just the talent, the ability, the
In fact,
skill.
Gerald's the one who would pull all of us aside and say, we gotta run back on defense. We gotta crash the boards. We gotta go out there and try. I know we're down 45 points right now, but dang it, we gotta try.
There's the ringing endorsement.
That was I will stand on that for Gerald. Can we just take a peek at the report card?
Yeah, we'll look at
What
it.
a surprise.
Oh God.
0 for 5, not 30 plus assists. Not 35 plus three-pointers attempted. You did not hold the Nuggets to under 114 points. You did not commit less than 13 turnovers. And no, the big three did not combine for 75 points. Are we shocked? No.
Yeah, it felt like it.
Are we sad? Yes.
No, I'm beyond that.
You're just angry? Are you indifferent? What are you?
I'm moving into the. I'm slowly getting to the apathetic. I think
That's not good,
at some
Espo.
point. Like at some point, you just go. This is what they are. And tonight, I slowly felt myself going into that realm, and I don't want to get there because A, that's gonna make a real boring show if I'm apathetic every night. But B, that's like a death knell as a fan, right?
Yeah.
Like is when you're apathetic about the thing that you care deeply about. And that's why alarms are going off in my head. Is apathy setting in is the last phase of, man, this has gotten much worse than you expected to be. And I don't think people should lower their expectations when you have this group. I don't think that's where you should go.
No, not with the way that A, you've invested the money, and B, you've talked about, and this is the royal you as far as the Phoenix Suns organization, players, coaches, front office, ownership. You have talked about, we are all in. We want to win. We want to win a championship. We're going to do anything that it takes. And now you're sitting here and the fans were promised something. And I'd be lying if I didn't say like, hey, I've seen a lot of people go out there and be like, I'm not watching games anymore. We've had people reach out to us. I'll just watch postgame. I'm not watching these games anymore. Oh, I want to hit Ishbia where it hurts. I'm going to take away the TV ratings or whatever. I'm going to be honest. I don't blame you for starting to becoming disinterested in this team, because at the end of the day, I can deal with roster problems. I can deal with flaws. I can deal with flawed players, right? I cannot handle watching no or poor effort every single night. As a fan, as somebody who breathes this stuff, man, like that irks me to my core, because I watched really bad teams try. And I saw that there is a baseline for effort. I know it's there, and they are not reaching it, and that's unacceptable. I will never be done. I will never become apathetic. I'll just get really angry, but I don't blame people who feel that way.
Well, look, there's only so many times I can get angry before I'm like, is it worth that, right? And I think that's where the whole fan base will eventually get. But I saw somebody in the chat, forgive me, I don't remember who. And by the way, if you're watching us on TV, head over to gophnx.com where we always continue the fun. You can see the rest of the program there, and you can read everything that Gerald Bourguet writes as well. But I saw somebody in the chat talking about how, well, if you lower your expectations, you won't get upset and stuff. But why should I lower my expectations when you sold me on this? Why should I be the one that has to change when you guys went all in and told me a championship is what you expect, right? I mean, that to me, it's not my job to lower my expectations and accept, below average basketball or mediocre basketball. It's on you who sold me on the idea that this is going to be a championship caliber team to get your stuff together. That's who it's on. It's not on the fan base to change. It's on the team to figure their stuff out.
And I think you can hold space for holding this team to the expectations that they had, that they were selling people on, and also acknowledging that they are nowhere near that, and holding them to the standard that was promised. Like, I think those things actually go hand in hand. We also need to be able to take a step back, and I think all of us have, and say that this is not a good basketball team right now.
No.
This is not a championship caliber team right now. This doesn't look like a playoff team right now.
No.
And I know it's still early. You're only like 3 or 4 games out of being a top 4 or 5 seed in the West because the standings are all bunched up. But at the same time, this team should be better than a 500 club heading into Christmas. And honestly, they're probably going to get smacked around on Christmas too. Yeah. So at this point, it is on them to prove us wrong, because a lot of people are apathetic. They are tuning this team out. They are losing faith in this team. They're not even watching the games anymore because it's not fun watching this team play basketball right now. It's on you, Suns, to prove everybody wrong and to shut everybody up, even if it's just for a night. Like, it needs to start happening now. It needed to start 2 or 3 games ago, but this has to be the wake-up call, or otherwise there's going to be a lot of change over the next few months.
Do you not feel like we sat in these same seats 365 days ago, having the same conversation about the same thing, with a little bit more optimism, because we could sit there and say it is early and we haven't seen and all these things. That's what's got me to this point, right? And I think, Noah, do we have the meme that we put together? Because I feel like this is the only way to describe how I felt tonight. It's the old Home Alone, where he looks at Buzz's girlfriend, he goes woof, but instead of the girlfriend in the frame, it is the box score from tonight. And I just, that reaction is so visceral that I felt like that. Fun fact,
Suns, your third quarter.
woof. The fun fact about that, did you know the girlfriend in the frame was actually the son of the director, because he did not feel that it would be right to put a young girl in there and have that comment made, so he put his son in a wig instead.
I did not know that.
Anyway, I thought we could use something a little interesting.
And to pull us right back into the depression, for US, where you're like, I can't change my expectations. This is how I personally go into it now, and maybe there are other people who feel this way, or maybe I'm by myself, where when I talk about this team as far as analyzing what they're doing from a wide scale season perspective, I hold them to that same standard, right? But when I go in to watch a game, I by no means am sitting down and saying, this was a team built to win a championship. I expect them to play like a championship team. They need to slowly earn their way back to, I'm going to expect them to play like a respectable team. Like a team that shows effort, like a playoff team, not a play-in team. And then if they can get to that point, I'll go, okay, I'm going to approach it like that. Maybe they can earn to go up. Because for me, I'm at the point where I'm going to watch every single minute of this team, right? And I'm probably going to watch it twice. And I'm going to drive myself insane if every time I watch them play basketball, I go into it thinking to myself, oh, they're going to hit it. Oh, they're going to get there.
Oh, I don't think they're going to. I think they should.
I agree.
And that's where my mindset is, because I'm not going to go into a game and go, you know what? I expect them to play like a mediocre basketball team when you have Kevin Durant, who's an all-time great, where you have Bradley Beal, who has played at a star level, when you have Devin Booker, who is by numbers and by the way he played over the last decade, the best player in franchise history. I'm not going in with the mentality that, you know what? I expect to see mediocrity tonight. And it's just, I can't ever accept that. That'd be like going into to any one of our shows and just expecting, you know what? We're going to be awful tonight because I don't know. It just feels off. I won't accept that level of expectation. If you're built right and you have a roster that
But
should be
they're
good.
not built right.
They are, but they
they're
have
not.
the talent. They have the talent.
But they're
I'm
not built
saying
right.
Chemistry wise, yeah. But I'm sorry, but I'm not going to sit here and accept the mediocrity and go in and expect it. That is loser mentality and loser talk to go into a game like that. Like,
And
I get. If you want to protect yourself mentally, fine. I understand trying to do that, but I'm going to let this team drive me crazy because I was sold on the idea that it isn't supposed to be like this, and I'm not going to accept it.
They have the talent to be better than what they are.
Thank you.
I don't think that and I've said this since the summer, I didn't put them in the same tier as like the Celtics and the Thunder in terms of my bona fide title contenders, but I wanted to see what it looked like fully healthy. I wanted to see how it fit. It's pretty clear at this point in the season that we're not going to see it fully healthy, and it's not fitting the way it needs to. I think that this team should absolutely be much better than what they are. They do have the talent. I disagree with the people in the chat saying they don't have the talent. They upgraded their depth. They have 3 players who have played at a all-star level. I think they have very big holes that we've brought up since the summer in terms of the center spot, in terms of needing more size on the wing, in terms of always needing more shooting. But like, they upgraded the pieces around these guys, whether you guys want to acknowledge it or not. I just don't think that this is fitting. I don't think that they've been able to overshadow their holes and their weaknesses on this team. And I think at this point, it's okay to take a step back, look at it and say, yes, while this team should be better than what we've seen lately, they're not where they need to be. They're not where we were sold on them being. And you've got to make changes to get them there however you can.
Talent is not the problem with this team. Talent will never be the problem with this team. On any team that Kevin Durant is on, that Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are on at the same time. They upgraded talent significantly, even in the middle of last season when they traded 4 players that were not playing well for Royce O'Neal. You have the talent, but you don't have the fit and you don't have the mentality. And what we are seeing on display in Phoenix right now is that talent by itself does not win in the NBA, and it certainly does not guarantee you that you are a good or great team. Talent is just that, talent. It has to be utilized in the right way. It has to be put in the right position. It has to be surrounded by the right pieces. And that is not the equation that the Phoenix Suns are finding themselves in right now. So what do? How do we move forward? Well, we don't have a chance but just to do it, just to get through it. Will there be trades? Maybe. Will there be internal moves and discussion and motivation? Maybe. The only answer is going to come as time continues to pass. And that's the only option that we have, but we're going to do it together. We appreciate all of you who are joining us here
tonight. You just described purgatory.
Well, welcome to the Phoenix Suns, Espo.
I mean, that literally, you just said, all we have is time. We got to bide our time till maybe we get to a promised land.
We're Sisyphus and we're rolling the boulder up the mountain,
we are literally, you just said we're in basketball purgatory.
Are we not?
I mean,
are we not?
Should we be? No. Are we? Yeah, I feel like perpetually for 56 years.
We are in basketball purgatory.
But yeah, that
we
description
are
was
basketball
totally
purgatory. But we're all basketball purgatory
Am I
together.
wrong, Gerald?
I mean, you've been a Suns fan for long enough. You already know what the deal is.
I'm trapped in a room with no doors.
You
But at least
were
we're
so quick
trapped
to
together.
identify it because you know.
Mooner says, just ask yourself, what do you need to see over the next 10 games? Heart, effort, and wins. And hopefully that comes as a Christmas miracle as the Phoenix Suns take on the Denver Nuggets. We will have you guys covered for that game. If you want to make sure you're still tuned in on our Christmas coverage and this whole season going forward, and maybe you don't want to watch the games, well, a great place to keep up with it is at PHNX_Suns. Of course, you can follow us there on Instagram and on X as well, or Twitter. I don't know why I'm saying X. I don't want to say X. It's Twitter, dang it. You can follow myself at ERIKRUBY. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, do you have a cheerful end for us on the eve of Christmas Eve?
we're basically in the Hotel California. You can check in, but you ain't ever gonna leave. All right, we're here, and we're gonna do this together. And if any of you find the door out, let me know. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.